I'm an ugly guy with a funny sounding voice, but this is me. If I draw attention to it, then I'll bring their attention to it. But if all the focus is on them, people don't care what I look like. I was the guy that Forbes an entrepreneur called the real life Wizard of Oz, because I went out to find what your goal and dream and fantasy was, see how I could spice that shit up. That's what I did for 25 years. The client wanted a really cool dining experience, and I closed down the museum, set up a table of 6 at the feet of Michelangelo's David. And then while he's having dinner, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade him, sending people down to the Titanic. Piano lessons with Elton John, walk the white carpet with Elton John's Oscar party.
What's the practical advice for somebody that says, hey, I want to be able to work with a billionaire?
So if you're gonna work with celebrities,
Steve Sims, I'm so glad that you came to hang out.
Thank you.
Absolutely. We're at Traffic and Conversion Summit, which is your first.
Yeah.
My 11th or something. I was the very first one in Austin, Texas in, I think, 2010. And Ryan and Perry literally sent an email out 2 weeks before the event and said, yeah, let's just see if we can get people in a room. So, fast forward, 5,000 or so people here, but a good place to connect.
Oh, yeah.
And we connected ultimately through, I think, Genius, but you're an interesting character for lots of reasons. One is that you look funny like me, which I like. 2 is that you do crazy stuff for other people and you facilitate amazing experiences. And that's kind of how you were introduced to me in the first place. And before we turned on the cameras, you were talking about kind of your experience that you had as a concierge, like being very good at facilitating experience and where you went from there. But why don't you give some backdrop on some of the crazy shit that you facilitated for people? Because I know you have amazing stories and they're out of control, like they're out of left field.
I never thought they were, which was the funny thing for a start. I was never, like any entrepreneur, if you say to them, bet you can't do this for $10. The entrepreneurs never focused on the $10, they're focused on the challenge, aren't they? So that was always me, but my challenges got bigger and bigger, and they started off by getting people in the nightclubs and restaurants, that they didn't have reservations for. And then it ended up being things like sending people down to the Titanic. I closed a museum in Florence, the Accademia di Galleria, because a client wanted a really cool meal. Sorry, dining experience was the parameter in Florence. And I closed down the museum, set up a table of 6 at the feet of Michelangelo's David. And then while he's having dinner in his completely own museum at 9 o'clock at night, I had Andrea Bocelli come in and serenade him. But I've had drum lessons with Guns N' Roses, piano lessons with Elton John, walk the white carpet with Elton John's Oscar party. We had a client that we both mutually know who said, I want to meet the rock band Journey. Can you get me backstage? And I thought, well, that's a bit naff. So I actually got him on stage and he sang 4 tunes as the shortest term lead singer with the rock band Journey. Funny enough, here in San Diego, like 7 years ago. So I was the guy that Forbes an entrepreneur called the real life Wizard of Oz, because I went out to find what your goal and dream and fantasy was, and see how I could spice that shit up. And that's what I did for 25 years.
I love that. Where was the shift? So at some point you were like, okay, I want to do something else, or everything's still like, there's still a backbone to that, right? Like that still plays into everything else.
So what happened was, I've always been a curious Irish lad. And I think that's what happened.
That was Curious Irish Lad, for those of you that couldn't get that.
There'd be subtitles on the only podcast on the planet with subtitles. It was one of those things that I was constantly going, well, how do you do that? How do you do this? I remember my parents got a TV with a remote control. Now, back in the 80s, wow, that was something. The TV was still the size of like 20 suitcases. And I couldn't work out how this worked. So to find out how it worked, I dismantled the remote control. And of course, like that, that didn't sit well in the family. But I was always that kid that wanted to kind of like, where's the VIPs go? How do you get in that? Like when I landed in LA and we had to go and get our driving license, and everyone knows the place you go to die is the DMV. So where does George Clooney's kids go to get their driving license? Because they sure as shit don't line up. When Oprah's got to get a renewal, she don't run down to the local DMV. So there's always somewhere. There's always a door. There's always someone you need to. That's what I went out to find out. And so the concierge firm was really just allowing my curiosity to run wild. And what ended up happening that I didn't realize, and you're correct, there's always a thread, there's always a backbone, was that I ended up wanting to get my clients into bigger, badder, more exclusive things. And then when I got there, I got to see the behind the scenes of that. So I was behind the scenes at the Grammys, the Kentucky Derby, the New York Fashion Week, Milan Fashion Week, Paris, the Cavallino Classic, the Stade Cartier Polo Classic. And I'd get behind this and I'd be like, so how do you market this to the uber rich? Yeah, how are you getting your message there? You'd have loved it. Half the guys from War Room would have loved to be sitting there. I've been in the headquarter marketing department of Tiffany. How do you run your campaigns? And at the time, I was just really curious.
Yeah.
But then I ended up helping them. And I ended up working with the Grammys, the New York Fashion Week, the Cavallino Classic, Polo, the Palm Beach and Bridgehampton Polo tournaments. All of these to generate more buzz, to get more clients to come, to raise the ticket prices. So I ended up, without realizing it, very curious, but now working in a marketing and branding. Now, I would get paid a bit of money, never a lot. I'd also get shit tons of tickets, which I would then supply to my billionaire clients. So I was getting paid well. But I always wanted to go to gigs that I could go, I like what you do, but I don't like the messaging you're doing it with. And, you know, with a little tweak, you could get less clients paying more. Would that be of interest? And that's what I would do in all the conversations of those. They'd be like, so how could you do? And then I would start doing it. And I think one of the beauties I had, I think maybe my unicorn, my talent that I had was not knowing what everyone else knew. Because they were carrying the baggage of, well, that's how we've always done it. I would come along and it's like the kid looking at it for the first time and they go, well, why don't we just put that over there? Because that'll do it, won't it? And of course, everyone in the room's going, but we don't do that. Why not?
Right.
And then when they did, the lights would come on and they'd be like, oh, how did you see that? But because I wasn't in that industry, I came in with a different viewpoint. So that's the thread. So I've gone from the concierge to Sims Media and to marketing and branding and taking the way that I branded a concierge firm. And you're right, you know, we know each other, so we're playing games here. But I had a concierge firm that didn't even have a website. And the website I did have didn't even have a phone number. And it's being run by a guy that can't even spell and doesn't even know how to do great copy. But I learned things to what the client needed. And that's what I focused on. When you focus on what the client needs, you haven't got to worry about a pretty website. You haven't got to worry about looking good. You know, you can turn it, and you'll vouch to this. Black T-shirt, tattoos, jeans, 9 times out of 10 on a motorbike, everywhere in the planet. You know?
With brown juice.
Yeah, with brown juice. But that's always been me.
Yeah.
But seriously, if you turned around and went, okay, you're going to run a luxury concierge,
Right.
You're going to run it from a guy that rides around on motorcycles, maybe curses a bit too much, and you catch him at 11 o'clock at night and he's probably leaning up against the bar with a couple too many old fashions in him, you're going to go, that ain't going to work.
Yeah.
You've got to look like this.
Yeah.
But you know, funny enough, it did.
Yeah, but I think, so you said, I mean, like 15 things that I want to hit on that we could go down the path of, but one is asking the question that people aren't asking.
Yes.
Right? And for you, that came from the place of, well, I'm not in your little club, so I'm thinking about it differently, right? I'm not part of your frame, so I'm thinking about it differently. But it's the lesson for me routinely and for the entrepreneur of what's a different way to look at this, right? And I think we inherently, entrepreneurs that are trying to solve problems inherently think about, okay, well, how do I solve this? But they don't always step out.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you said that I really liked was you asked people who were running the event or running the thing how they pushed it out, right? How they did things differently. And very often we get trapped in the allure of the experience, not the facilitation of it, right? Not how somebody actually went about doing it. You also mentioned that when you were shifting from concierge into the marketing or the marketing side of it, you were kind of repositioning for them, and saying, hey, what if you could have less clients and make more from them?
Yeah.
Who is the audience for that?
So anyone that's got a course, anyone that's got a product, anyone that sells anything knows full well that all the moaning comes from the person that spent $20 on it. You know?
I'm well aware of this.
You don't get the guy that's spending 20 grand a month bitching. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I actually believe that's because of a couple of different movements. One, you'll pay attention to the guy paying 20 grand. You'll think the guy for $20 is getting what he needs. Okay. But you're split focusing. I'm a great believer that you can't half jump in the pool. All right. You deal with that market or you deal with that market. You know, if you've got this market, then head it off to someone else, but don't dip your toe in both. You can't do that. And I noticed that a lot of people, as they were growing and they were trying to scale, the first mistake they would do was reduce their prices. How do I get more people? Well, that's easy. I half my price.
Right.
I half my price. I double the value, which means double the content, double the courses, double the work, double the friction. How is this good?
Right.
You know, again, it's like the emperor's new clothes. You look at it and you go, the guy's naked. You know, so you get to see these things and you go, well, why are you doing that? Now, if I said to you, you want a yacht, you want a penthouse, you want to travel the planet, would you want to do that with 200,000 clients or do you want to do it with two?
Mm-hmm.
I know what your answer is going to be.
Yeah.
You know, I want 2 headaches rather than 200,000.
Right.
So I went out and I thought to myself, I can either do work for people with not a lot of money and do 3 times the amount of work, or I can eliminate the payment as the first problem by only soliciting billionaires.
Mm.
And so what I would do is I would go for them. And do you know the funny thing? Guys are scared of 2 things. Okay? And entrepreneurs are scared of 2 things. Hot girls. Guys are terrified to talk to hot girls.
Yeah.
Okay? And billionaires.
Mm.
That's a funny one, you know, because they will turn around and they go, I don't know how to talk to billionaires.
Yeah.
I don't know how to solve a billionaire's problems. Now I'm talking to you and I know you've got things in the back of your head because you've dealt with billionaires, you deal with people with money. But here's the thing. There was a point in time where you didn't have any money.
Right.
There was a point in time when you would get the red letter and then the second red letter and then the threat to be cut off and then you'd pay it by borrowing some money from Billy. We've all been in that. We know what that experience looks like. So we know the problems of not having a lot of money.
Right.
Not a lot of us that know what the problems are of having too much money.
Right.
So how do we relate to those people? But if you look at the richest people on the planet now, pick them. Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, any of these people, they didn't have money.
Right.
They started, so they know the relationship to not having.
Mm.
And people think, because you're a billionaire, let me stick you on that pedestal. My God, everything you say is gospel because you're a genius. Yes, and maybe 1 or 2 things.
Right.
But for the rest of their life, they know what it's like not to be able to afford or to go into a grocery store and know to the dollar how much is in the bank account so they know how many loaves of bread they can buy. So I went out there and I went, okay, I can't relate to them, but they must have my problems. They must, maybe that's scalable. You know, they want to tell cool cocktail parties. They want to show off in front of their friends. How many millionaires do you know that still have a hang up, still don't think they're rich enough, still are taking photos on the planes that they don't own?
A lot. All of them.
You get that level, and it's also the other hard thing. Do you remember as a kid when you would go, when I'm a millionaire, I'm done? You know, and then you hit $1 million and you go, I'm still poor as fuck, you know?
Yeah.
If you're a millionaire, you can't be living in Manhattan, LA, or any
No.
of these places. You've got a tiny little apartment and a shitty car.
And the question is, it doesn't matter the number, because even at whatever your number is, you know, like, are you rich?
Yeah.
Right? Purely monetarily. And like, you can define the word rich in many other
Yeah.
ways, right? But if you're just talking about money, what is rich? And there are people that have, you know, $1 million that live in rural Indiana right, that will call themselves rich.
Yep.
And there are people that have $100 million and would be like, well, I'm not like rich, right? There's the guy or girl that has 7 billion or 8 billion or 100 billion, whatever, right? So there's definitely frame involved there. And also there's a mindset shift, and there's also a functional difference. So one of the questions that I have is when you are when you didn't have money and you were approaching these people, how has your frame of how to approach these people changed, if at all, right, from early days to today?
So funny enough, it's gone on a U-bend, and it went bad in the middle. Okay.
Okay. So tell me about that.
At the beginning, I had nothing to lose. I had a shitty old Honda, and I used to just turn up to these affluent parties, and I just used to find people, talk to them, and quickly try to find a reason for them to want to engage in me. You know, whether it be talking about that car, you know, talking about this, trying to find something that they liked that they had a problem with. Yeah, I love your car. Yeah, so do you find, you know, troubles with anything like that? Well, I can never park the thing. Good. If I know valet boys, or if I know secret parking spaces, now I'm a solution to it. So I was scattergun at the early stage. But I'd be very direct. What's your problem? Forget me. Let's talk about you. People love talking about them. You know, so I would always focus on, you know, hey, Brad, how you doing? Why are you a traffic and conversion? Ask question. Why are you here? What are you hoping to get out of it? When you go home and in a month's time you're implementing something, what's that implementation going to be? And what problem is it solving that you turned up here with? You know, I'm focusing on, and you'll talk to me all day about that without looking at me going, God, is this guy going to mug me? You know, you're focusing on your problem, and now we're having a conversation. Then I started to get more and more people, and I started to get richer clients, and I was starting to make money, and I'm starting to live well. And then I woke up one day and I got a contract with Ferrari, and it was the 50th anniversary of Ferrari, and I was handling about 3 parties for them in Monaco during the Formula One Grand Prix.
Fun.
The number one event, the number one location for the number one brand celebrating a half a century. It was everything, you know? And I was the one, we were compiling guest lists, and it was everyone that was anyone at that time. Sultan of Brunei and his closest friends. It was, I'm trying to think of the guy's name, Hugh Grant and Elizabeth Hurley, who were the it couple at the time. The 2 big actors at the time were Terminator and Rambo. You know, Stallone and Schwarzenegger.
Yeah.
We had those coming. So, and of course, like Cannes Film Festival was only the week before, and then they would come over and stay. So we could get absolutely anyone, royalty, singers, anyone that was anyone was at these events. And I shit myself. I had been doing this for about
Literally?
8 years. Well, I don't know, but maybe. but 8 years I'd been doing this. And I woke up and I was living in Switzerland, penthouse in Geneva, overlooking the Cour de Bastion. Life was good, you know? And I woke up one day and I went, hang on a minute. I'm going to Monaco, which, bear in mind, this was I think my 3rd or 4th time. So I wasn't a newbie at it. And I'm like, I can't go like this. What are they going to think? Worst thing an entrepreneur can ever happen.
Yeah.
That little doubt devil gets into you and it don't come up with smart answers. And I'm sitting there going, I've got to change. And I said to Claire, I went, I've got to change my appearance. I've got this contract 1 month away. I got this contract, and oh my God, I got it. We went out and we got suits. I got a watch. I remember the watch was the price of the car that Claire was driving, you know?
Oh, God.
I did all of this kind of stuff. Took out my earrings, you know, took everything out. And I went down to this event. Played the part. And there's a picture. I've got a couple of pictures still in my office. I bought a Ferrari. I've only had about 3 or 4 cars in my life. I bought this Ferrari. Drove it down from Geneva. I've got to admit, that was a great experience.
Yeah, I bet.
That was fun. But there's a picture of me leaning up against this car outside my party in my suit, trying to look all that.
Yeah.
Wasn't me. And then there's another picture of me inside the party. I'm up at the bar, you know, my usual place. and I've got Arnold Schwarzenegger here, and I've got Sylvester Stallone, who at the time were the largest actors at the time.
Yeah.
And we're sharing a joke. So it's like a very kind of pic. It's a great picture.
Yeah.
If I'd have been me.
Ah.
But I wasn't. We often joke that was the greatest party that I never went to. This prick in the suit and watch went to. And that doubt came in. And I came back and I went, people don't care what I look like. I'm an ugly guy with a funny sounding voice and that kind of thing, But this is me, If I draw attention to it, then I'll bring their attention to it. But if all the focus is on them, they don't care. So literally I went home, got those photographs back, saw that I had sold myself out, put them all away, got rid of the car that afternoon, hocked the watch, got rid of that, and I went back to the black t-shirt and jeans and started communicating with people again. And something funny happened. All the people during this minute 3 or 4 month period that I had kind of got interested in me were interested in the superficial. All of the people that I had been able to just sit down with and crack a beer with had left me. And I remember going back, and there was a couple of people that I spoke to afterwards, and they went, glad you're back. And I went, was it that obvious? They went, yeah, you went. We didn't know. There was a couple of conversations we were having. We didn't know if you'd come back. And it was that apparent that I had left who I was to become someone who I thought you would find more intoxicating to do business with.
Right.
So that was the U-bend. So now, as you know, I'll deal with billionaires. I'll go up on stage. I'll go to networking events. I'll go to galas. And this is what you're going to get.
Yeah. I love that.
Insert funny advertisement here. Or just check out Easy Pay Direct. It's epd.com/BAM. And you can find out about credit card processing for your business. Lots of our guests use us for credit card processing. And this seemed like more fun than writing a scripted ad.
This is like the journey of figuring out both you and also perhaps what's effective in accomplishing the goal that you're after. And those may or may not be the same thing. So let's talk, execution of these things. So there are tons of reasons that you might want to garner the attention of somebody like that. One is PR, right? When you work with clients, what are the tips and tricks to get that attention? How do you implement that stuff? What's the practical advice for somebody that says, hey, I want to be able to, why don't we start with why? Why do any of it, right? Why do you want to work with a billionaire? And why might one of your clients?
Right.
And then what does the path to that look like?
Great question. So a lot of people want to work with celebrities because of the visual attention. I could introduce you to 10 of my clients. You'd get drunk with them, you'd have a good laugh, and you wouldn't know that they own things like countries. You just have no idea who they are, okay? Because for every Mark Zuckerberg, there's 10 around him that you don't know who they are. For Elton John, you don't know who his manager is. You don't know who his publicist, who's been with him and owns 5% of anything he ever does. You don't know those people. You don't know the people that put the money up for the Brad Pitt movies. The Brad's walking home with 10 mil on that movie, and this guy's walking home with 200.
Right.
You don't know those guys.
Yeah.
So a lot of people look at the celebrities because it's an instant pull into the public eye. So if you're going to run a tech company, what's the visuals if Elon Musk becomes an investor? Okay, so there's the visual side of it. I will say that's got more dangerous over the years because how many of us, I remember I did an event about 10 years, not 10 years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, and it had, I'm trying to think of his name now, but it was the House of Cards actor.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Kevin Spacey. Yeah.
I don't know of a bad Kevin Spacey movie.
Yeah.
I love Kevin Spacey.
I do too.
I thought
Great
the
actor.
stuff, the way House of Cards was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I had a client that was doing something, and he had Morgan Freeman and Kevin Spacey that was going to promote his products. Okay? We know what happened to Kevin.
Yeah.
Or do we? See, I don't know if he got convicted. I don't know if he got acquitted. We don't know. But in the public eye, you only need the
Condemn.
shit.
Yep.
You know? We don't know if he's got away with it. I know Jeremy Piven had one come at him and it got thrown out of court, but he said it doesn't matter. The damage has already been done.
Right.
I don't know if I'll get stuff again. So the guy bowed out of Kevin Spacey, and because of all of that hoo-ha, Morgan backed out because that guy was related to doing something with its vicinity and its location. So first of all, a lot of people want the celebrity stuff, and those celebrities are your Richard Bransons, your Elon Musks, your Jeff Bezos, as well as your Lady Gagas, and so celebrity has taken a wider streak, but it's a quick bump up into credibility and visibility, but it's dangerous because you're now hanging your hat on how long this person's going to be viable to you.
Yeah.
If you want to meet those people, let's give it the tips and tricks. Very, very simple, and I've worked with all of the above that I've mentioned. This is what you do. You find out where they're going to be, what charities they support, what galas they go to. Hey, you can Google and find out where their kids are going and go to that school gala, okay? Find out where they are. All of those things I've done, okay? You walk up to them with a bit of research of how you're going to help them, okay? You've done your research, but this is the most imperative part that most people go wrong. You walk up and you go, hey, Brad, how you doing? My name is Steve Sims and you don't know me.
Okay.
People forget that bit. How many times with your podcasts, with your look, with everything that you do, how many times, especially at something like traffic and conversion, people come up to you and they go, Brad, how are you? And you're stood there going, who the fuck is this? Are we mates? Have we gone out hanging out? How do I know?
That's a great point, man.
And you are frozen.
Yep.
And how many times do you have people that go up to ask a celebrity for their autograph and then coming away going, well, that person was a dick? You know? No. They are just, this thing up here is going, do I know you? Are you the daughter of one of my mates, one of my backers, one of my investors? Help me out here. My head's going to explode.
Wow.
And all that's going on.
Yeah.
And you've had it.
Yeah.
I've had it.
Definitely.
I'm still there going, who are you?
Yeah.
You
We're
know?
unique looking characters, so people remember us.
Yeah.
And only in this tiny little frame relative to like a celebrity.
Bingo.
Right? Where
So the
everywhere they
celebrity,
go. Yeah.
the celebrity is frozen.
Uh,
Okay? And so when you walk up to these people and you go, hey, my name's Steve Sims, you don't know me, what does that do? It relaxes them. They can go, phew. Now, the second they relax, question number 2 comes in. And it's very primitive. What are you after? Selfie, you're going to pitch me on your product? Are you going to do, so you've got to feed that quickly. Hey, my name's Steve Sims, you don't know me, but I know you have a podcast. I know it's a great podcast. Have you ever thought of how you can get it on Alexa and treble your viewership? I'd like to be able to help you with that. Would that be of interest? And you fire something out. I've gone to people and I've gone, hey, I know you're working on this. How are you going to get the exposure on that? Have you looked at how podcasts could help the platform? What media are you using to generate it? I own a media company. Have you looked at these 3 points of media at the moment? You give them something based on a problem they have. Now, you think people haven't got problems? Everyone's got problems.
Everyone.
There is always someone richer, prettier than you sitting in a seat in front of you. So you walk up to someone, hey, I hear you love electric guitars. How would getting a guitar lesson by Slash be? Would that be of interest to you? Yeah. You know, hey, I hear you like fast cars. Have you ever driven around the Le Mans circuit with, I don't know, a past Le Mans winner? Would you like to do that? Oh, I'd love to do that. You know, all those kind of things. How would you like to sit down and have dinner with Elon Musk? Just one of these things. Now, those are big things.
Yeah,
a lot
huge.
of the listeners may be sitting here going, well, I couldn't do that.
right.
Okay? I walked up to a guy, can't tell you his name because I'm still working with him 6 years later. Okay? Silicon Valley guy. I wanted to work with him. I knew what he was working on. I knew the party he was going to be at. And luckily, it was Elton John's party, which, funny enough, I saw him on the guest list because I was working the party. So I've been trying to find him. Whoa, he was coming into my garden. So I was happy about it. So I did my research on this guy. Now, he's not Elon, but he's a big venture capitalist, okay? and I knew he was working on one of the projects, and I wanted him to work on one of my projects. So I knew what I wanted, okay? So I did my research on this event, and people love threes. I'm going to tell you the 3 ways you can get rich. I'm going to tell you the 3 ways how you can lose weight. I'm going to tell you the 3 ways how you can get the best night's sleep. I can get you 2 weight. No, I don't want to know that. But if I tell you the 3, you're interested. If I tell you 5, you're too bored. Yeah. Everyone loves 3s.
Yeah.
So this guy was working on
strange rule of 3.
It's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had seen what he was working on. Okay. And I had to come up with 3 ways to make what he was working on better. I came up with the first one, and I was thinking, I could see a problem, and it was on the surface. I didn't know the background of the project, but I could see something. The next one was distribution, because distribution and awareness and raising money, these are all the common problems. Okay, so I found these. Number 3, I had to come up with a 3rd problem that I could overcome. And I came up with a real bollocky one. I can't even remember what it was, but I had to nail the 3. So I walk into the party. I see him, eyes locked, walking over there. You can see him looking at me. And of course, you notice us when we're walking towards you.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see the guy go, because I'm coming at him.
Yeah.
And and I went, hey, how you doing? Sorry to, stance you up. My name's Steve Sims. You don't know me. Okay. All of a sudden he goes, oh, like this. And then he goes, yeah. And he leads, because now it's kind of like, well, what do you want?
Yeah.
All right. And I said to him, but actually, I saw something on the news that you're working on this project. And you take it for what it's worth, but I own a consultancy company I did at the time. And I said, and I just, 3 things just popped into my mind, how this could trip you up. And I don't know if you looked at, but would you be interested in me telling you what I noticed? And he went, all right. I went, well, the first one is blah, blah, blah. But I thought if we did this, because no one wants more problems. You don't want me turning up to you and going, hey, Brad, you're putting on weight there.
Right.
And then walking away. That doesn't help you.
No.
It's
just irritating as fuck.
Damn right it is. So I went over there and I gave him that and a little solution.
Yeah.
And of course, the solution, who's going to solve that? Me.
Right.
Number 2, I noticed that you may not have this in place, but, I know that with our clients, we've worked on that. So, maybe you can get someone to do that. Of course, again, expose the solution, you look like the solution.
Yeah.
So the 3rd one was blah, 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 and I gave him to him. And he's looking at me, and he's got a few of his little entourage around him, and they're looking at me, and they're kind of like, who's this weird biker that's come over here that's just kind of like telling us about his company? And they're all looking at me inquisitive. Now, I'm focusing on them and their problem. So they're not really focusing on who is this guy. They're now focusing on the solutions I've given him. He starts to laugh. And I'm on about damn near peeing himself. And I'm like, that wasn't the response I wanted. But he's giggling away. And I'm like, all right. And it's going on. He looks at his lackeys. They start laughing. Because now they've been given permission by him to laugh at me. Now, I'm not the kind of guy that wants to get laughed at too much. So I've let it go on for a few seconds. And I'm like, all right, can't win them all. This one's died. And I go to walk away, and he's bigger than me, and he puts his hand on my shoulder to grab me, to pull me back. Guy's laughing at me, his lackeys are laughing at me, and now he's got his hands on me.
Right.
This needs to go well quick before it goes bad. So I turn around to him, and I'm not fully turned around, but my head's turned around. He's like, I'm sorry. He said, but we closed that project about 8 months ago.
Oh.
We shut it down. It was because of number 2, that you have walked up into a party, seen, while knowing nothing about the project, and offered a potential solution. He said, that may have actually rescued that project. He said, now I'll never revisit the dead, so we're not going to launch that. But would you be willing to work on retainer and have a look at some of our future projects?
Oh, wow.
People want solutions.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't give a shit how pretty you are. Screw your pretty websites. Forget your fancy suits. Forget all of that. They want to know who you are. And the good thing about me and you is that we're not color coding it. We're not softening it. When you meet me, You know everything about me within 3 seconds. You did when we first met. You know, I ain't the smartest tool in the shed, but he'd probably get shit done, you know? But that's fine.
Yeah.
You were able to make your assumptions with some form of clarity because I had made myself, and this is a classic line from the groups that we know, I had made myself impossible to misunderstand. Now, I had gone there and I was focused on you, and I gave you some problems. And very quickly, you knew who I was through my body language, through the way I turned up. I was making it very, you had no apprehension. Now, that can translate into any way that any marketer is working with their client. How many marketers do we know? The first thing they do is they put a photoshopped picture up on their website to look as pretty as they possibly can.
Yep.
You know, in their best suit that they never wear.
Yep.
You know, breathe in their garden and like slight sideways. Yeah, you can do it. How many of them do that?
Yeah.
And then they get someone to make the copy so eloquent with words that they could never say, let alone spell.
Yeah. It's like a dating profile, right? What I
Absolutely.
want is the third date. Fuck the first date, right? I don't want your profile. I want to know who you are.
And we are becoming less tolerant now. You know, we've gone through COVID, we've gone through the pandemic, we've gone through the lack of clarity, we've gone through not only COVID, we went through a political upheaval on top of it. And in the middle of that, we had Asian hate, Me Too, and Black Lives Matter. We had 3 massive movements. What a year. So there's been a lot of confusion, a lot of upheaval, a lot of disconnect. And when people are dealing with other people, there's only one goal that you should have. Make yourself impossible to misunderstand so that person can turn around and go, all right, I know who he is, now I'll listen to him. And that's what you've got to do. Whether you're dealing with celebrities, whether you're dealing with the head of the PTA, whether you're dealing with someone at your local business bureau, okay? Be clinically clear on who you are so that when you engage the person to demonstrate you are there for them, you're an asset and a solution and not a pretty website.
I love that. So, you know, I mean, I think there's a lot of takeaways in that, but for me, one of the things that is highly relevant is I know a lot of people that don't fucking know who they are.
Yeah.
Like truth. And specifically the people that start to do really well in life that get lost. And, you know, there's this narrative. We have a mutual friend who's a very good friend of mine, Cameron Harold, and one of his cornerstone books, he's written a number of books, but one is Vivid Vision. And it's, hey, paint this vivid picture of the next 3 years for your company. And actually before we started, I talked about this and alluded to this, but we don't all have a master plan.
No.
And some of us don't have a master plan of who we are ourselves and who we want to be. But absent that, just having habits in place, just having something that you know you're doing on a routine basis, that's what's going to show up 10 years from now. And what I get from you is authenticity, right? So what I get from you is you can say, hey, you know who I am, right? But how I got that was whatever judgments I may have had, what I got was I'm comfortable with myself and I'm here and I'm just going to be me. And this is this thing I'm going to do, right? And a lot of people have a hell of a time doing that.
So just to help you out on that, I have an issue with the word authentic.
Okay, good.
You know, yeah.
Shoot it down. Give me a better one.
Transparency.
Oh, I like that.
Okay. You see, the worst people in the planet are those sitting on the fence. You know, you can guarantee that there are people that are listening to this show that are going, I like that guy. Guaranteed equally, there are people that have already turned off going, I don't like that guy.
Yeah.
Okay. Both of those camps are fine.
Yeah.
Okay. But it's the ones that can't make a decision. Your job is to help them make that decision. Kick them off the fence, either on my side or on the other side. Focus on your transparency. And you made a statement that if we break down, a lot of people don't know who they are. Who cares?
Yeah.
I'm not focused on who you are. I'm focused on what you do, what solution you provide, and who it can help. I don't care about your religion, your size, your penis size. I don't care about any of that. I care that you are the solution to my problem.
Right.
And that's, you haven't got to worry about being authentic. You've got to focus on being transparent that you do this exceptionally well, and it'll benefit you.
I like that, man. I like that. So, what are you working on now? How can people find you? What? How do you want to help people?
Well, I want to get them clearer. The funny thing is, I did the book Bluefish and the Art of Making Things Happen. And it was a bit of a tongue-in-cheek and also very therapeutic for me because I thought everyone was doing this. I thought everyone was branding this way. I thought everyone was communicating this way. I thought everyone was focusing on the solution and the transparent. And I was like, gobsmacked how people weren't. And everything I was doing was dead simple. Do you know how much effort it takes to be me? But I was stunned how many, and as you were referring to it, how much effort people take to be someone that they're not.
Right.
So I realized I actually knew a little bit more about marketing and branding than what I was told, because I've been doing it for some of the biggest companies on the planet. And of course, for my travel industry and for others in the travel industry, and then my own personal brand. So we launched Sims.media. And we now help breed that clarity in other people's message. Get it out there. And as Ryan was saying on stage, messaging is media. Everything now is about message. Everything else is just distribution. But you need to focus on what it is you actually do. Make it concise, make it impossible to misunderstand, and then direct it out there. And the rest of it is just, how you position it, how you market it out there. But, I am focusing heavily now within Sims Media and helping people define the solution that they have and then find the market that they need to serve.
Concise, impossible to misunderstand, distribution.
Ain't difficult. It ain't hard.
Yeah, well, concise is hard. There's a quote that I never remember the specifics of and always butcher, but it's a Mark Twain quote that is something to the effect of, I was going to write you a quick note, but I didn't have time, so I wrote you this long letter instead.
Yeah, I've heard that. I have, yeah. People have trouble with brevity. I've noticed people don't get confused the briefer the note is.
Yeah.
And with today's technology, I actually video messages and send them to people because I've never spelt anything wrong in that video. So there you go, a little tip trick there.
I love that. I'm a big fan of that. The video messages make a huge difference.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you sitting down and talking for a while. Looking forward to the next conversation.
Cheers, Brad. I've enjoyed it. It's a hell of a backdrop as well. So thanks for having me.
Definitely, man.
My director of marketing told me to read this. Thank you for tuning in to Beyond a Million. If you liked this podcast, please subscribe and drop a comment below. We'd love to know your thoughts. If you want to learn the strategies that our guests such as Neil Patel, Amy Porterfield, and Grant Cardone use to scale their business, you can find more episodes on our website at beyondamillion.com.